Being with us in this section, we're focusing on Ukraine. US President Donald Trump said this Monday he didn't think Ukraine would win the war against Russia, but that anything could happen. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke with his Russian counterpart, the Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, about the next steps towards a resolution following that call between President Trump and President Putin last week. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky painted his meeting last week with Trump as a success that yielded progress on acquiring new air defense systems. A contrast from reports this Monday that Trump had berated him with obscenities in the White House for not agreeing to Putin's Russia keeping Ukrainian land that it illegally occupies now. Well, some EU leaders are raising concerns about the possibility of a summit between Trump and Putin in Budapest. Here's Monty Francis.
Vladimir Putin is wanted for war crimes by the International Criminal Court, so some EU officials are expressing doubts about Budapest being a suitable location for Donald Trump's planned summit with the Russian leader.
The only place for Putin in Europe that's in Hague, in front of the tribunal, not in any of our capitals. And this is very clear. I cannot imagine him crossing our airspace.
But the location of the summit is not the only thing in doubt. The U.S. position on the conflict also appears tenuous. Following a 2-hour phone call between Trump and Putin last Thursday, the U.S. president appears to have adopted many of Russia's talking points. And over the weekend, a White House meeting between Trump and Zelensky behind closed doors reportedly descended into a shouting match, with Trump warning Ukraine's president to accept Putin's terms to end the war or face destruction.
Do you think President Putin is, in his words, playing President Trump?
He wants to postpone real negotiation meetings. He wants to postpone any kind of meetings with me.
You will push to go to Budapest?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I said to President, I'm ready.
In addition, since his phone call with Putin last week, Trump appears to have backed off a threat of supplying Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles, something Kyiv desperately wants. Vice President J.D. Vance says Trump still hasn't made up his mind.
Well, look, the President of the United States is trying to ensure that America's security is taken care of first, and obviously that means that we need to have the critical weapon systems for our own military.
On Monday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke on the phone with his counterpart Sergei Lavrov to lay the groundwork for a Trump-Putin meeting in Budapest. Both sides appeared optimistic that the summit would happen.
A Ukrainian drone attack on Russia's Orenburg gas plant has forced neighboring Kazakhstan to reduce production. Kyiv has stepped up its attacks on Russian refineries and other energy facilities since August to try to disrupt fuel supplies and deprive Moscow of funding. Output at the Karashkanak oil and gas condensate field has dropped by 25 to 30%, according to industry inside sources. Meanwhile, 192 Ukrainian coal miners have been successfully rescued after their mine was bombed by the Russian military. The workers are trapped below the surface as the fire raged above the ground at the DTEK mine in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. The President Zelensky saying Russia is trying to impose an energy disaster across Ukraine. Let's get more analysis about the upcoming Budapest summit, something that, of course, is yet to have a date set on it. The next Trump-Putin meeting is what it could be. Zelensky says he's ready to go. What would it mean for Ukraine's existential fight then against the Russian invasion? Let's bring in Mark Lustow, an affiliated fellow at the Institute for Advanced Study at the Central European University in Vienna. Mark, thank you for being with us. Is this meeting, if it goes ahead, actually something that would undermine Europe and its support for Ukraine? Ukraine, of course, to remind everybody, an independent state under Russian attack.
Absolutely. I think it would be, in the end, a disaster for Europe if this summit does actually take place. While plans for the summit are still developing, it's really unclear when it will happen, if it will happen. Summits planned in the past have not come together. Trump is notoriously fickle. Still, I think skepticism that any progress will be made towards peace is the right response in this situation. Putin's own actions have shown how little stock he places in any kind of summits, negotiations, any kind of real substantive peacemaking. And the question now really is to Europe's leaders, how to limit the possible damage of allowing Putin, if indeed the Budapest summit goes forward, how to limit the possible damage of allowing Russia's leader, an indicted war criminal, an international pariah, to walk freely around a European capital. The optics of that kind of situation, a Budapest summit, would just be a real disaster for Europe's unity, and also any sense that it could have agency, take a role of being a real leader in the conflict in Ukraine. It'll take away any sense that that could possibly happen.
And one can say there could be a dispensation, because it could be technically, in inverted commas, a peace negotiation, though, of course, how you do that without both warring parties together, because Zelensky's not invited. I don't know what the detail will be on that one. But nonetheless, Putin might be seeing this as an opportunity to get inside Europe, and just by being there, basically thumbing his nose at the EU and all the other countries who are making such efforts to support Ukraine.
Absolutely. It's a win for Putin, a major win on the diplomatic stage. To be present in a European capital. I think the real question is posed to Europe's leaders. When is Europe going to find its agency in this war? In a new world where the U.S. isn't Europe's patron, isn't a stalwart ally, when is Europe going to take the kind of action that will make Trump and even Putin irrelevant to Ukraine's security, not to mention Europe's security? Because that's really what Putin wants. He wants to destabilize Europe. He wants to, and he is and has been undertaking an imperialistic kind of campaign to reassert his influence, a sphere of influence, even in Europe. And the question really is, when is Europe going to realize that and take decisive action to prevent that from happening?
One person, of course, would never turn his back towards Putin is Viktor Orban of Hungary. And, of course, the relations between Hungary and Ukraine, if this Budapest summit goes ahead, of course, are going to be strained even more. There's already a dispute about Hungarian speakers in the west of Ukraine, which Orban says he wants to protect. They apparently, as I understand it, have said, Viktor Orban, we don't need your help at all. We can actually argue our own situations with Kyiv, and we get on quite well.
It's been an ongoing war of words, an ongoing series of blows to the bilateral relationship between Hungary and Ukraine. Is the issue of Hungarian speakers, the ethnic minority Hungarians in Western Ukraine. But really, what's going on here is Viktor Orban has, for at least 10 years now, been doing Vladimir Putin's bidding within Europe. And the only way that Europe can really prevent Orban from being a spoke in the wheel, as it were, is by taking, again, decisive action to prevent Orban from having voting rights within the EU. And that is a matter of triggering the Article 7 procedures under the EU treaties that will, in the end, withdraw Hungary's voting rights and prevent it from having a lot of the leverage that Viktor Orban does actually have over major EU decisions around, for instance, sanctions against Russia that have really substantively hampered Russia's ability to sell energy, to sell liquid natural gas to EU countries. That's done real damage to part of Russia's economy. And Viktor Orban has been doing his level best at the bidding, really, of Vladimir Putin to prevent Europe from taking a united and effective stance against Russia's aggression in Ukraine.
It is a treacherous situation, Mark. Thank you for giving that light that we need to better understand the situation. Mark Luster, affiliated fellow at the Institute for Advanced Study at the Central European University in Vienna. Mark, thank you for being with us here in France 24. We appreciate your time. We'll be watching for all developments, of course, on that possible Budapest meeting. The two foreign ministers, Rubio and Lavrov, have been speaking US, Russia. We'll see what develops from there. And of course, as soon as we know, you'll know.